Chapter 2, The Night Shift. Argentina and Monetary Policy. Got a stone but didn't get a nut to crack. Got a nut but didn't get a stone to crack it with. Ghanaian proverb. The dying light of an autumn day pierces Sylvia Ozuna's one-bedroom apartment like shards of glass, and the darkening sky above Buenos Aires jars her as if from sleep. She is late. Hurriedly, she dabs on a final coat of lipstick, barks instructions to the babysitter, plucks an open pack of Marlboros from the kitchen table, and bounds down 4 flights of stairs in what seems like a single fluid motion. Her heels click purposefully on the sidewalk's broken red brick as she strides past hulking walk-ups with laundry drying on the window ledges, dusty thrift stores, and hotels that charge by the hour and blink vacancy in neon lights. In her head, she does a quick reckoning. The breeze is warm, the sky clear, and it is the first Friday of the month, payday for many of her customers. Should be a good night, she says as she ducks into Charlie's, an all-night greasy spoon that the girls use as a break room. The fry cook, with snow-white stubble and slits for eyes, glances at her from behind the counter as she walks in. "Hello, honey," he says with a wide grin. "Hello, Bruno." Sylvia answers as she opens the door of a closet-sized restroom marked with the letter M for Mujeres, hanging crookedly from a plastic hook on the door. She tears off her khakis and emerges 2 minutes later wearing a pair of hip-hugging sheer white leggings. She hands her folded khakis to Bruno to put behind the counter for safekeeping. Good luck tonight, honey," Bruno says. Sylvia waves without turning back. Just blocks away, Miguel Machado is arriving for work at almost precisely the same moment. The ghost train pitches forward and then back before trembling to a halt in the city's Belgrano neighborhood. Hauling rucksacks, pushing grocery carts, and makeshift dollies, Los Cartoneros tumble to the platform in clots, then scatter through the twilight neighborhood of Leviathan high-rises and condominiums to sift through the evening's garbage for soda bottles, cardboard, newspapers, whatever the recyclers will take off their hands. Miguel is among the first to exit. He is 46, square-jawed, Rock Hudson handsome, and in a hurry. Since he lost his job at the flour mill, picking through other people's trash for recyclables has been the family business, and the Machados are short-handed tonight. His wife is home with the babies, both of them sick, leaving Miguel alone to supervise the couple's 5 oldest children. Since recycling fetches only pennies per pound, every hand counts. "Mario, come on," he says to his lanky 16-year-old son, who is pulling the hood of his gray sweatshirt over his head and pushing one of the family's 2 dollies. Miguel has the other one. He quickens his step, lowers his head, leans into it. It's time to go to work. This is the night shift in Buenos Aires, Argentina's teeming capital city, where workers in the most viable industries are the roaming bands of Los Cartoneros, literally boxmen in Spanish, and Los Gatos, the swarm of prostitutes who occupy neighborhoods like Constitution in cheap leather, loud lipstick, and fuchsia. 20 years ago, Argentina's was the most prosperous and industrialized economy in Latin America, and virtually everyone who wanted a job could find one. Then in 1991, with the blessing of the world's 2 most powerful financial institutions, the IMF and the World Bank, Argentina's investor-friendly government decided to root out inflation by fixing the exchange rate of the local currency, 1 peso for $1. Within 2 years, the move had sharply curbed inflation from a rate of 84% annually to one of 7.4%, but it also effectively raised prices on locally produced goods, making Argentina's products too expensive to sell abroad and products shipped into the country artificially cheap. Much like the disillusioned, bankrupt protagonist of Ernest Hemingway's The Sun Also Rises, Argentina went broke, gradually at first, and then suddenly. Confronted with a deluge of foreign products and unable to sell their merchandise abroad, Argentina's manufacturers scaled back or went under. The very nature of work changed. By 2003, the country's auto industry was producing fewer cars than at any time since 1965. The nation's unemployment rate quadrupled. Since 1997, 3 out of every 4 jobs created here have been in the informal sector, meaning that they are off the books, on the margins, and often in the shadows. Across the city, that means a nightly scramble for johns and scrap metal. On any given night, government officials estimate as many as 40,000 cartoneros are working in Buenos Aires. That number has increased more than tenfold since 1993. So many cartoneros converge on the city from its Rust Belt perimeter that in 2003, provincial transportation officials removed the seats from a fleet of trains solely to accommodate the workers and their equipment. No one knows who coined the term, but before long the trains were dubbed collectively as El Tren Fantasma, the ghost train, because it's as if, Miguel says, the cartoneros don't exist in this world. The tragic truth is that there is not enough trash to go around. Miguel likes to arrive early and stake out his turf. People will fight you over the garbage, he says, as he stands under a streetlight with his children, poised and waiting for the night's rubbish to be hauled out. We are living like animals now. This is not the life I wanted. His goals are simple: to buy a house, take his children to see the ocean, buy them decent clothes. This is the best I can do for now, he says. On the corner of Pavon and Santiago del Estero, in the neighborhood known as Constitucion, the white women from small towns in Argentina, Paraguay, and Peru stake out their territory. A block away, the black women from the Dominican Republic, Cuba, and Haiti saunter. More seem to arrive each day, so many that Sylvia grudgingly had to lower her prices a few months back, just to stay competitive. How much? A merchant marine, with hands the size of hams and the rumpled face of a Shar-Pei dog, asks Sylvia as she stands beneath a street lamp, twirling strands of her waist-long, honey blonde hair with her fingers. This is what she does when she is nervous. 30 pesos, she says, roughly $10, plus another 10 for the hotel. A nod, and they're off for 15 minutes of sex on a lopsided queen-sized bed in a dark flop house, after Sylvia demands that the manager at least change the sheets before she forks over the cash. The merchant marine is her first customer this evening. Before the night is done, she will have sex with 8 strangers, a good haul considering that hardly anyone in Constitucion has any real money to spare, and there are 7 other women working at this intersection alone. He smelled like bad meat, Sylvia says, grimacing, as she sits on a plastic chair at a wobbly table in Charlie's, sipping coffee and taking a puff from her 6th Marlboro of the night. It's 8:44 p.m. and she is complaining to her friend Cecilia Cordon, who usually works the same corner as Sylvia. Cecilia smiles, first at her friend, then at me and my interpreter. The Paraguayan, she says playfully of Sylvia. This is the nickname affectionately given to her by the other streetwalkers. Sylvia moved here 6 years ago from Misiones, a cow town in neighboring Paraguay, contemplating medical school and marriage to a man she met shortly after she arrived in the city. She worked nights cleaning offices and attended pre-med classes during the day at the University of Buenos Aires. Tuition was still free. She only had to pay for books. But the maid service gradually cut back her hours. When the peso was devalued, Sylvia was earning $1 an hour for 20 hours of work each week. She quit school. She had a baby with her boyfriend, but their relationship flickered until he vanished from her life so abruptly and completely that she sometimes wonders even now if he weren't a hallucination. She and a co-worker were mopping an office floor together one evening when Sylvia shared her concerns about money. Her co-worker told her that she earned extra money by working as a prostitute at a bar. They're always looking for new faces, the co-worker said. Sylvia turned her first trick a year ago. She is 27, a single mother with a June bug-sized mole on her right cheek and carved features that are more handsome than pretty. She can be dour, almost joyless at times, and this is precisely why Cecilia and the others dubbed her La Paraguayan, to needle her about her somewhat imperious bearing, her aloofness. It is their way of telling her to relax, to get over herself. I know they say I'm very serious, Sylvia says. I try to keep a low profile. I don't drink. I don't do drugs. I save. This is my job. This is how I have to look at it. I know some girls come here with the intention of being prostitutes. I didn't. But this is the only way I can feed my daughters, send money home to my father. None of us want to be out here, Sylvia, Cecilia chimes in. She is 47 and has worked as a prostitute on Constitucion streets off and on for more than a decade now. We're all out here because of the crisis. We're all here because we have children to raise alone without husbands. We're all here because there's no other work for us in Argentina. There are a lot of more women on the streets now than there were 10 years ago. And to do this, you don't even need a uniform, she says, smiling broadly to diffuse a slightly tense moment with her friend. All you need is a short skirt. Sylvia exhales a cloud of cigarette smoke, dashes the butt in an ashtray, and leans forward. But Cecilia, I don't want this to be my life. I don't want to be too comfortable here. I would quit doing this tomorrow if I could find a real job somewhere that would pay me what I make out here. What I can make out here. I would. We all would, Cecilia said. But Sylvia begins to answer, but Cecilia cuts her off. Let's go, she says, rising suddenly from her chair. Let's go back to work.